Okay.
So it's fresh 18-year-olds. They've just finished school. To be fair, they came to me. They was like coming to the location I lived at. So I was like, I'm going to open my door to them.
Of course.
And it made me rich. That's them. They're so nervous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're holding their ID up. They're shaking. They don't know me. They've just queued up for hours on end. All they know is that I'm videoing it and they don't know what to expect. But yeah, the Mingin ones, I guess, sell better. I don't want to just do students. I want to do their dads as well.
Was he still with the mum?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if she's not going to go down on him, I will do it.
You must do it yourself. And that you will fuck people's husbands.
Yeah.
No qualms.
I'm like, well, you should have done it yourself.
Well, I slept with him that morning.
Well, you're not very good at it then.
That's fair enough.
But you can't expect bills in the house to be cleaned if you're not at least going down on him. Subscribe, get some tips, see if your husband's on there, and then you're all good.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new video. Today we are going to be talking about and responding to a podcast episode that Alizi sent me, and she was basically just like, you have to talk about this. And the podcast is called Saving Grace, and it features Grace Keeling interviewing a series of guests. I'm going to be talking about one particular episode today, in which she interviews an adult content creator called Bonnie Blue. I've never seen this podcast before, so I don't have any preconceptions about Grace overall or any issues with her. I don't like her I know nothing about her. There's a few things she says in this podcast that worry me, but my problem mainly is with the guest, Bonnie, and her actions and views and the things she's both doing and promoting. So like I say, this particular episode was an interview with adult content creator Bonnie Blue, but I think she's so much more than that, because I don't have a problem with her doing that. That's absolutely fine. My problem with her is that so many of her actions are incredibly predatory, she's incredibly misogynistic, and she's also quite cruel and a bully. So the content she is known for is not just regular adult content, but she's known for targeting vulnerable teenage boys in order to exploit them for sexual content so she can make money, and in return they get like 5 minutes of sex. I have a lot of things to say about Bonnie and her views, and we're going to be talking about them in a lot of detail, but the first thing I want to address, and this is a minor thing in comparison to everything else, but I just want to address some discrepancies in how old she is, because Bonnie claims she's 24 years old, although I've seen a couple of posts that suggest she might have just turned 25 in the last week or so, but that doesn't make sense. I think she's lying about her age. That's what I'm going to say. The first clue that I kind of had was that she tells these stories about her life that just don't add up with the timeline she says they're on. So she says that she met a guy when she was 13. They were together for 10 years. She married him. They got divorced when she was 23, right? Which would be last year. That guy now runs her company with her. That's fine. That doesn't seem like a problem. The problem is her company was founded 3 years ago. She'd been making content a little bit before, adult content a bit before that. She didn't really blow up and get big until about a year ago, but the point is she's definitely been doing OnlyFans and has had her company, Bonnie Blue Limited, for at least 3 years, which means by her timeline she started that at 21. However, she claims before she started OnlyFans, she had a whole career in recruitment. And this is where the timelines just don't add up. So I'll show you the clip.
What did you do before? What was the vibe?
Recruitment. So I still did recruiting, just different type of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that.
See, that's sort of just different industry now.
Okay. And how did you fuck that off and start what you're doing?
Relocated to Australia.
Okay.
And when you live in Australia, no one seems to be doing you 9 till 5. And I went there for a better life. And then quite quickly I was like, being here is brilliant, right, but if I go back to recruitment, that's still boring. Yeah. I don't want that.
Yeah, I see.
And I was like, I'm too good to do the average life.
Of course.
So I was like, skip recruitment.
Yeah.
Obviously knew about OnlyFans. I was like, I'll give it a go.
So she wants us to believe that before she was 21, she had a several year-long career in recruitment, something which in the UK you generally either need a degree for or several years of experience in that field. Then she moved to Australia, considered working in recruitment there before deciding she was too good for a regular job like the rest of us and just started making porn. And she wants us to believe that she either got a degree or several years of experience and then did several years of work in recruitment, all before she was 21. That's just not possible. It's not. She's missing 2 to 3 years here. Like, where did they go? There's a possibility that she was an extremely gifted kid. Maybe she got her A-levels 2 to 3 years early. So she got her A-levels at 15 or 16 instead of 18. But that would be in the news because that is so rare. That doesn't happen. Maybe she graduated at university at 19. Maybe she's incredibly gifted. But again, that would be in the news because that just doesn't happen. So basically, either she's lying about her work experience before she did OnlyFans, or she's lying about the timeline and she's actually 2 to 3 years older than she says she is. Also, can we just talk about her line about her feeling like she's too good for a regular job? Like, she deserves to exploit teenagers for money. That's what she deserves. Rubbed me the wrong way straight away. Anyway, I thought for a while maybe this was just me being like a paranoid conspiracy theorist and maybe there was some explanation for all of this and blah blah blah. But no, I'm actually right. So in the UK, when you have a limited company, you can look up that limited company and like its records and who owns it and all that sort of thing and like all the registration information. That's all public. So I found her company, I looked it up. The two owners are her with her proper full legal name, which is obviously not Bonnie Blue, that's a performer's name, but her regular legal name, and her ex-husband. They are the co-owners of the company, and if you look up these records further in, it will give you information about who they are, their date of birth, that sort of thing. And Bonnie's date of birth says that she's going to be 27 in February, so that's not the 24 that she's claiming to be. I don't really know, well, I do know why. It's because she doesn't want to seem as creepy when she's targeting these teenagers, but it is creepy. It is. It doesn't matter if she's 24, 25, or 27. She shouldn't be specifically targeting barely 18-year-old boys to exploit them by making porn with them for her to make money. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like, okay, let me explain in a little more detail what she does and why this age thing is important and why she bothers me. So, let me just read from a little article written about her. Okay. Bonnie Blue is a stage name for a 24-year-old British adult content creator, although she's actually 27, who has a sizable following on OnlyFans. She sparked vision after posting about her travels around the world, deliberately targeting university hotspots in order to advertise to young men and encourage them to sleep with her, something which she believes sets her apart in a saturated market. I'll also say she targets freshers. So these are people just at university, just moved out of their parents' house, just turned 18. Barely 18. Blue said she offers the students the chance to have sex with her for free on the basis that she can film it and use the content in her online material. She's claimed that by travelling everywhere from Derby to Australia to Cancun, she's managed to have sex with hundreds of teenagers and that she's helping to educate them about sex along the way. And this is one of the big things we're going to be talking about in this video. Not the only thing. She does other bad things too, but this is the main thing. She does claim that she checks IDs to make sure they're legal, although I'll say this, one, fake IDs are absolutely a thing, and you still do sometimes get 17-year-olds at freshers events, you do. And two, even if she is going for these 18-year-olds and checking they're just 18, they're still barely legal, and they're not in their right minds to be making decisions about whether they want to be making online sexual content for free with a much older woman. You know, she's nearly a decade older than them. There's a lot of exploitation of vulnerable people going on there. 18-year-olds are adults, sure, but they're also still young, naive, driven by hormones, and at that age, especially during Freshers Week and stuff, you make so many stupid mistakes. I know, I was once a stupid hormone-driven 18-year-old during Freshers Week as well. And the fact that she's not only trying to sleep with them, but that she insists on filming it and posting it online is using them for free sexual labor when they're at an age when they probably don't fully understand the consequences of that, the long-term consequences of that, you know? She's found a weakness and a vulnerability in these teenage boys which is, you know, most typical teenage boys. Yeah, I'd do anything for sex without really thinking through the consequences. And she is exploiting that so she can make money from them when they get no benefit from this. Well, they get 10 minutes of mediocre sex on camera that everyone's going to watch. And then she goes on podcasts like this and makes fun of them. It's not really worth it, is it? And the fact that this content is online forever could affect their future job prospects or relationships or anything. Like, I know if I met a man and he was like, oh yeah, funny story, back when I was 18, a woman a decade older than me filmed me having sex with her and put it online for millions of people to see, and I got nothing out of it. Ha ha ha, isn't that funny? I'd be like, sorry, but I'm not gonna date you. Like, that's now my standard. I've dated someone who's had that kind of adult content online before, and I cannot deal with that. I don't have the security to deal with that. Like, it's no, that would put me off, and I think it would put a lot of other people off, and I'm not sure these 18-year-old boys are really thinking through the consequences there, you know? There's no, well, she says she gets them to sign a contract, but there's no contract in place that actually protects these boys. So they sign a contract saying, yes, I consented to this, I absolutely did, but there's nothing that gives them any rights over their content. If they change their mind at all, they can't stop it being posted, they can't get it taken down. They have absolutely no rights to that at all. They get no monetary compensation. It's purely exploitative. Like, there's no other way of looking at it. It's purely exploitative. And like I say, if that wasn't weird enough, she's being weirdly manipulative by claiming that she's not exploiting them, she's educating them, which would be hilarious if it wasn't so dangerous. Exploiting barely legal teenagers for your online porn business is not educational in any way, and you cannot pretend it is. And as we're going and seeing this podcast, I don't think she's fit to be educating anybody. She doesn't have the basic knowledge about consent, safe sexual health. She can't even get basic things like naming basic sex positions right. Like, I don't think she knows what she's doing, really. She's had a lot of sex, but that doesn't mean she's educated in what good or safe or healthy sex is. She is not someone who should be an educational resource for any teenagers. And even if she was, you don't educate them by exploiting them sexually for your monetary benefit. You just don't. Actually, let me show you that sex position clip now, because it's ridiculous.
And the first position was me on top. That's missionary. No.
Oh, God forbid.
I don't know what other position that is.
Again, like, that's not missionary. And if she can't even get the names of, like, a basic sex position like this right, then she shouldn't be educated. She shouldn't be educating anyone. Like I say, her approach to sexual health is really dangerous too, but we'll talk about that more later in the video. And the other concerning thing is... what was it? 'Cause it's not in my notes. Oh yeah, and the other big thing was that, you know, she's having sex with all these young, naive, inexperienced boys, and then she will come online on these podcasts, as you'll see later. I'm not going to show you all the clips because some of them are just too mean, but there's whole clips of her, like, making fun of, like, penis size, how long some of these boys last in bed, their technique, what they look like. Like, again, it's not educational for them if you're then exploiting them by mocking their sexual experience on a podcast. Again, so you can make money. That's not how education works, is it? One of the articles about her quoted her saying, "As an adult content creator, I want to educate late teens on how to have fun, stay safe, and enjoy a healthy sex life without worrying about judgment and shame the older generations like to push about sex." Except, as someone who's a little bit older than her, the age gap between us isn't as big as she wants people to think. She's closer in age to me than she is to the boys she's exploiting. But as someone who is a little bit older, I don't want shame or stigma around sex. I don't want any judgment. I think if you're with a consenting adult and it's all safe and happy and healthy, great, wonderful, nothing wrong with that. But what she's doing is not safe, as we'll see later. It is not healthy. I'm not sure anyone who would be happy about her mocking them sexually online later. And again, she's exploiting them for money. That's not educational. I don't know how many times I have to say it. The article says, Blues defended her approach to content creation and her OnlyFans uploads on multiple occasions. Speaking directly to Cosmopolitan UK, Blue said, "I received backlash for sleeping with barely legal 18-year-olds, but the keyword in that sentence is legal. No, the keyword is barely. Rather than comment on my TikToks, people should complain to the government to increase the age from 18 to 21, as I'm only complying with UK law. She added that if the law were to change, she would then film with barely legal 21-year-olds instead. So much wrong with this. One, I generally have a problem with people who are into barely legal people to have sex with, or who watch content of like barely legal teens, barely legal, because that implies to me that you're just a predator. You just don't want to face the consequences of that predatory behavior, you know? You don't actually care about the well-being of these people that you're sleeping with or watching sexual content about. You want to be as creepy and predatory as possible without facing any legal consequences for your creepiness. That's what that says to me. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, right? Age of consent laws are important to consider, but you also have to consider the context. So in the UK, age of consent is 16, 18 to be in sexually explicit materials. But this isn't for 50, 40, 30-year-old women to go sleep with 16 and 18-year-olds. The idea is that like a 16-year-old can consent to sexual activity with another 16-year-old or 17-year-old or 18-year-old, you know? It's like, the idea is you're old enough to make decisions about your sex life at that age when it comes to experimenting with other people your own age. You know? It should be absolutely legal in my mind for a 16-year-old and another 16-year-old to figure it out together. I don't see anything wrong with that. What I do see something wrong with is when a 27-year-old woman is exploiting 18-year-old boys because they're barely legal and that's what she likes. You know, creepy as hell. And again, her defense is, I film content with inexperienced students for both their benefit and mine. The hate is coming from a generation who believes sex is taboo. Women can also be proud and bold about sex. And like I say, I'm a bit older than her, but the gap isn't as big as she wants you to think. Again, I'm part of these people complaining, and she would probably have the cheek to call me an older generation to her, even though there's like 4 years between us. But for me, it's not the act of sex that's a problem. You know, if you've seen my content before, very sex positive, very big on sex education. I am completely happy with people doing what they want as long as they're not hurting anyone else. But Bonnie is hurting other people. I don't care if she wants to create as much OnlyFans content as she wants. I don't care if she wants to sleep with as many adults as she wants. What I do care about is an older woman specifically targeting much younger teenagers who don't necessarily have the experience or knowledge to consent to this kind of sexual content on camera and content creation, and the fact that she is making a lot of money off exploiting their vulnerabilities. That's what I have a problem with. If she was doing this with, say, men over 25, I'd say go for it, you know, they're old enough to know better. Let them be exploited for all I care, because it's their choice. But an 18-year-old kid just at uni is not going to know better. He's not going to be thinking about the long-term consequences. He's not going to be thinking about his sexual health. He's not going to be thinking any of these things through. He's going to be fueled by hormones and faux bravado in front of his mates and probably a lot of alcohol, which, you know, is another factor. They're vulnerable in that state, and they're the people I care about because they are being exploited. That said, this isn't my only problem with Bonnie. Let's watch through this podcast episode together and hear all of her awful views. Not only her bragging about being predatory and not being sorry about it, but basically how she hates all women. And women, if you get cheated on, it's your fault. She just does not seem like a nice person, and I feel like all the money in the world is not worth being this mean for. So the podcast starts with her talking about how she will happily sleep with women for money, but
couldn't settle down with one though, because I'm not a girl's girl.
Right. I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
So, you know, at least she's self-aware that she's awful to other women. It just seems to be her mistreatment of young men that she's oblivious to. But she will happily acknowledge that she mistreats women and she doesn't care about that. And she's fine with being mean, you know? I will say that when I was younger, like early 20s and, you know, not Bonnie's age, because she's a grown adult of 27 years. I always said that when I was younger, like, I didn't have too many friends who were women, and it took a hell of a lot of unpacking and work for me in therapy to realize that that's because I was literally afraid of women. I was terrified. I'd faced a lot of bullying in school, and that had just left me terrified of women, and I didn't trust them. I didn't know how to act around them. It was awful. And I was projecting all my, like, personal fears onto women as a whole, and that was something that I had to work through and overcome, and now I'm in an amazing place where, like, I have all these amazing women in my life who I love and trust, and we support each other, and I think it's an amazing thing to have. So when I hear a grown woman of 27 being like, I'm not a girl's girl, I'm like, that's a red flag. You know, this isn't like her having some trauma that's made her scared of women, or it's not even like youthful naivety. It's just meanness. That's all it is. Like, can't say for sure, I don't know her, but for me, when a woman of her age has an attitude like Bonnie's, when she's like, I'm not a girl's girl, it most likely means she's a bit of a bully. She probably has a hell of a lot of internalized misogyny, and it mostly reads to me as her saying, I'm happy to screw over other women and see them oppressed and abused if it makes me look better in the eyes of men and I'm the only one benefiting. That's what I hear when I hear a woman like her say, I'm not a girl's girl. Now, I'm not saying we'll have to support everything other women do just because they're women. Of course not. I'm literally here critiquing another woman because I think she's wrong. But I am saying, if you're going to be outspokenly proud about being against a whole gender, that's a worry. She then talks about how, while she's been doing OnlyFans for a while, at least 3 years according to her, like when her company was registered, but she didn't feel like her content was different enough, so she decided that her USP would be to target 18-year-old boys who were, in her words, fresh out of school. Again, it's concerning that that's who she's targeting. She's claiming that she started doing this when she was 23, almost 24, but in reality she started doing this when she was 25, almost 26, and now she's turning 27. So either way, a mature adult who should have known better.
So yeah, then in November last year, there's something in Australia called schoolies.
Okay.
So it's fresh 18-year-olds. They've just finished school. They go partying.
Right.
To be fair, they came to me. They was like, coming to the location I lived at. So I was like, I'm going to open my door to them.
Of course.
And this is where I have like one of the first problems with the host, because sorry, but no, not of course. No, when a child comes to you because they have a crush, as an adult, it's your responsibility to tell them, no, sorry, that's inappropriate, and not indulge it. What the hell is this interviewer thing? Oh, barely legal, just out of school. Oh, of course you're going to sleep with them. Of course you're going to exploit them for money. No, not of course. And the thing is, like, she's not only abusing her position of power as being someone considerably older than them, but she's got a position of power as a content creator that they're a fan of. And she is abusing that fan celebrity dynamic as well, you know? So again, not of course. Don't abuse that position of power. It's not difficult.
And I loved it. They loved it. And it made me rich.
Okay, chat to me because I need to know all about this, right? So you've got freshers.
Yeah.
Do they have to sign, because do you post the videos from that online?
Yeah, because it's free for them.
They have to sign consent forms? Okay.
So they come in, have to show me ID. Have to have photos with their ID, and then they sign consent forms.
And does the consent form just say, I'm posting this online?
Yeah, it's just like a generic OnlyFans. Do you like accept? Are you being like forced into it?
Okay.
And I'm like, are you being forced into it?
If they're
See, so this is one of the things I mentioned earlier. There is a contract, but not one which protects or benefits the teenagers. She's only protecting herself in case, whoops, one of them is underage. At least she tried not to. No, that's all she's like doing and covering her back. These boys, and I'm saying boys because they are boys, have no rights to change their mind. They have no control over how and when and if and where this content is posted. They're not making any money for their labour, and it's all one big joke to her. She's literally laughing about, ha ha ha, isn't it great to exploit them? No. And again, she's saying that they consent here, but this makes me again doubtful about how much she really understands consent, and I think it's a grey area, you know? With the power dynamics, with the age differences, with the fact that probably a lot of them are under the influence of alcohol because it's Freshers Week, with the fact that they maybe don't understand the long-term consequences of what it means to have these videos online forever. I would say that consent is dubious, you know? I'm not saying they're not consenting, but I'm saying I don't believe they're all definitely giving informed consent. You know what I'm saying? And again, kids are stupid. At 18, 90% of the decisions they make are with their genitals, okay? We can't just hold the kids entirely responsible for making these bad choices. As adults in their life, we have to sometimes step in and be like, hang on, let us protect you. Let us stop you making these bad decisions. Instead of saying, ooh, bad decision, let me exploit it and make money from it. You know, it's irresponsible on her part.
Do the videos do well or do better if they're good looking or if they're a little bit of a minger? Respectfully.
Mingers.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I know your virgin ones do well.
Oh, yeah. I'd say like for my pussy, the good looking ones do better because my pussy's like, get them straight in.
Of course.
Sometimes when they don't look as good looking, like struggle sometimes a little bit, but a bit of spit, I'm all good.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, the minging ones, I guess, sell better.
So again, not only is she taking advantage of these kids, but she's openly harsh about them online afterwards. It's not, ha ha ha, look how funny and cute and quirky she is. No, she just has no conscience, and she's a mean person. I would be broken if I was one of these teenagers and I heard someone speaking about me online like this. Horrible.
Have like a little bit of a convo with them when they come in, or do you just straight to it?
Yeah, bless them, they're so nervous.
Yeah, I can imagine.
They're holding their ID up, they're shaking, they're trying to sign the
God.
consent forms. It's looking like I'm literally holding them like to their will.
And again, hearing clips like this, any decent human would know that if you're with someone who's acting like this, then these are not kids you should be filming yourself having sex with and exploiting them so you can make money. I don't understand how she lives with herself. This isn't funny or cute, it's just disgusting and disturbing on her part. She then admits that a lot of these boys are signing forms while they, and I quote, don't know what to expect.
I can understand why they'd be nervous.
100%.
They don't know me. They've just queued up for hours on end. All they know is that I'm videoing it and they don't know what to expect.
Yeah, especially I feel like if you're a virgin, that's a very big move.
And again, sorry to bang on about it, but if they don't know what to expect, then you're not providing them with the information they need to properly consent, are you? That's not how consent works. If it's not fully informed consent, it's not consent. And then she goes back to mocking the boys again. So she spends several minutes mocking various boys. And again, using boys very purposefully here, because an 18-year-old fresher, it's a grey area. Some are more mature than others. But looking back at how I was at that age, I was mature for my age, but I was not mature. You know, Anyway, she spends several minutes mocking various boys with various types of erectile dysfunction, which again, call me crazy, or maybe I'm just not a mean person like Bonnie is, but I don't find that funny. I don't think that's the sort of thing you should be laughing about online for hundreds of thousands of people to watch. I also have to ask, who actually listens to this stuff and finds enjoyment out of it, or finds it funny? Listening to a grown adult mock teenage boys nearly a decade younger than her for how their penises work. Well, actually, thankfully, Grace's audience were not a fan either. She understandably got a lot of backlash for it. Words. I screenshotted a few of the top comments that are like, Grace has a problem with never being able to disagree with her guests, never challenging them in any way. She adopts their views. This can make for great interviewing in some circumstances, but agreeing with such outlandish views like this is totally irresponsible. Save this talk for the incel podcasts. Another person says, after having such a nice podcast with Louise last week talking about genuine things, now having this on is so disappointing. This needs to be taken down. This is absolutely grim. This is so crazy. Kinda disappointed with how Grace changes her views and agrees with her when she could have stood on her own backbone. Grace agreeing with her when she talks about husbands cheating on their wives. Honestly, this is so disappointing. Exactly. I don't agree with the comment in between where it's like, oh, be a powerful woman, respectful to your man, respectful to yourself. Having a lot of sex doesn't mean you're not being respectful to yourself. I don't agree with that at all. And this idea that respect your man by not sleeping with other, no, screw that. But the rest of it, the stuff about the fact she's creeping on teenagers and the cheating stuff, which we're going to get onto now, that's what I'm not a fan of. But hey, if you were wondering, don't worry, she doesn't discriminate based on age, according to her at least.
A lot of my subscribers are older as well.
Right.
Obviously, I don't want to discriminate. I don't want to just do students. I want to do their dads as well.
Oh, well, that's all right then. But don't worry, she's still being unethical here too, as she really likes to sleep with both a father and son, one after the other, while the dad is married. This is something she actually brags about doing repeatedly. She's absolutely fine with it, and she goes on to say that apparently it's the wife's fault if her husband cheats. And she goes on to say that apparently it's the wife's fault if her husband cheats, which is just heartless. I'm going to play you a long clip here. I will warn you, there's an awful jump cut in here that like cuts off some random words. I'm not entirely sure what was said or what's missed out, but that was in the original podcast. It's not something I've done, so sorry about it.
I have to say, when I first saw him with his dad, I thought he's going to come and like tell me off.
Okay.
No, it was the opposite. He was jealous and wanted to join him.
Together?
I didn't know if that was too inbred, so I made him go separate.
Yeah,
His dad was next door in the same apartment, and I did the son first.
Okay.
Went to see the dad.
Yeah.
I still had his son's liquids on me.
Who was better, the son or the dad?
The son's penis was bigger.
Oh,
the dad was better.
That's so humbling for the dad.
Yeah.
Did you tell him that? No.
No, too
That's
nervous.
fair.
Go back for tea time that night with their mum.
Yeah.
Could be interesting.
Was he still with the mum?
Yeah. But the thing is, like, if she's not going to go down on him, I will do
You
it.
must do it yourself.
Again, no. This is not something you must do. This is not a moral imperative. What another couple does or does not do in the bedroom or out of it is none of your business. You don't have a moral imperative like, ooh, I must help him cheat on his wife. I just must. Like, stop it. No.
Shit. Have you ever had any women that, because you've said online that you will fuck people's husbands?
Yeah.
No qualms. Have you ever had the wives message you or come after
all
you?
the time. I always get photos saying, have you slept with my husband? Like, have you been with my partner? And to be fair, like, I don't know.
Again, at this point, I'm not going to shame her for the number of people she's been with at all. That's absolutely her business. I have no problem with it. I feel as long as she's happy, there's no too much or too little. I think that's fine. But what I will shame her for is the fact she has knowingly helped so many people cheat on their partners that she's lost count of how many times I don't care if she's lost count of how many people she's had sex with, that's fine. The fact that she's lost count of how many people she's helped cheat, that is concerning. My issue is not with how many people she's slept with, that's fine. It's the kinds of people she is choosing to sleep with and these patterns of behaviours where she is just hurting people, whether that's the wives that are being cheated on, or the boys that she's exploiting, or all the people she's exposing to sexually transmitted infections. Because we will talk about her lax attitude towards sexual health in a moment, and it's concerning. Basically, overall, what I'm trying to say is, like, her concern primarily is always with making money, and that comes at the expense of anyone else. Wives, girlfriends, partners, men's sexual health, boys' well-being and their long-term future and career prospect. Like, she doesn't care. She will screw over any and all people in order to make more money, and that is something I do not respect at all.
What would be your go-to there? I'm the wife.
Okay, yeah, go on then.
Bonnie Blue,
Yeah.
you fuck my husband, you cheeky bitch.
I'm like, well, you should have done it yourself.
Well, I slept with him that morning.
Well, you're not very good at it then.
That's fair enough.
And now again, we're on to victim blaming. Like, let's not do this. The only person that makes a choice to cheat is the husband. So let's not blame their betrayed partners for their actions, right? Well, I say sometimes wives cheat as well. Okay, the only person who chooses to cheat is the cheater. Let's not blame their betrayed partners. That's a better way of putting it, right? But the problem here is that, like, this isn't just like someone who unknowingly helped someone cheat or they made a one-off mistake or something like that. No, Bonnie is repeatedly, knowingly making that choice to help someone cheat. So she is not blameless in this. She is a part of the problem. She is an active part of the problem. And throughout this podcast, you'll see, actually, I don't know if I'm including the clips at the end, but there's bits where she's like, ha ha ha, if you want to cheat on your wives, come to me. Ah, wives, if your husband's going to cheat, you might as well send him to... Like, she is an active participant in this problem, you know? And I think Bonnie's just making up stories here to try and make herself feel better by, like, telling herself, well, the wives must be inadequate in some way. No, they're not inadequate. And even if they were, that doesn't excuse cheating. You know, she's just trying to make herself feel better here by villainizing someone else when she's the problem and the cheaters. You know?
I would have nothing actually to say back to that.
Thing is, like, even the husbands that don't agree, if I actually sort of say to them, like, well, when's the last time your wife went down on you?
Right.
Or when's the last time you basically got a full service? Like, they haven't.
Yeah.
But, like, those partners still want the bills being paid for. Like, they still want the house to be clean. And you're allowed to nag at your partner if the house hasn't been cleaned, or, you know, they're spending too much money at the pub.
Yeah.
But as soon as you mention something to do with the bedroom, or say, oh, we haven't done this in a long time, or you haven't gone down on me, it's like, oh my God, you're the worst person ever. You can't mention that, or you can't pressure anyone into it, which I get and I completely understand, but you can't expect bills in the house to be cleaned if you're not at least going down on them.
Hey, you know, she was right. She's not a girl's girl, is she? But no, she's not, because one, what woman wants a man to provide for her these days? Like, who is she talking to? She's never been around women, has she? Two, I get that it's her job, so to her sex is transactional, but in a relationship, in a healthy relationship, that's not the case. In a healthy relationship between two adults, sex is not transactional. So that attitude is wrong. Three, no one owes anyone anything sexual, even if you're in a relationship. And four, can she stop pretending that she knows anything about what's going on in other people's relationships, please? Like, she can't even remember the faces of the men she's helped cheat, so don't pretend that she can remember the specifics of their relationship dynamics, because clearly she can't. Like, no.
Your partner's going to cheat if they want to cheat regardless. At least you can probably find it on your OnlyFans as proof.
Exactly, yeah. Subscribe, get some tips, see if your husband's on there,
and
then you're all good.
Again, don't pretend you're providing some sort of service here. That's just pathetic. And again, based on some of the stories she shared in this podcast, which I won't go into details in this because I don't want to get demonetized, but like, based on some of the stories she's shared of her sexual experiences, like, she's not someone I take tips from. I don't think she knows what she's doing at all. She's had a lot of sex, doesn't mean she's good at it. I don't think she's as skilled as she thinks she is. Sorry. And then she says something that is really concerning and dangerous, and this is what I've been referring to in regards to sexual health. So, in an earlier clip, she says that when she does these Freshers weekend things, where she turns up and she's like, Freshers, come sleep with me and I'll make a bunch of content. She says that on average, she sleeps with about 160 men in a weekend, right? Remember that and listen to this clip.
Do you use condoms for all of them?
Yes,
you do. Eat like Freshers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not for the blowjobs, but for the sex I do.
Not for the blowjobs?
No.
Does that worry you?
A little bit, yeah, but I get tested every 2 weeks.
Okay.
You have to, like someone in the industry. So I obviously get loads of stick saying you must be riddled with STDs and you must be like, you must have things. But I get tested more than anyone else. So it's like sleeping with me is not only clean.
Actually probably safer.
It's a smart option.
Yeah.
Again, sorry, but no, not very clean, not a smart option. Incredibly, incredibly dangerous. STI tests don't become safer the more frequently you have them in terms of time period, but the more frequently you have them between sexual partners. So every 2 weeks might sound a lot to the average person, but to her, that's getting tested every 300 partners. And as she says, she's not using condoms when it comes to oral sex, and I bet she's not using them every time she touches the penis with her hands, and there's a hell of a lot of sexual contact there that is not safe and protected, and 300 partners between tests is a hell of a lot. And sorry, this is going to be graphic, but that is 300 potentially diseased penises that she has in her mouth and her hands without any without condoms, without any physical barriers, before she ever gets tested. So she might start off a weekend completely STI free, but what about those 300 penises that she has in her mouth before the next test? All it takes is for one of them to have an infection, and she's risking spreading it to the next 300 or however many hundred there are before the next test. That is dangerous. Not using condoms or some sort of physical barrier contraception with that many people is straight up irresponsible and dangerous. It is a health hazard. She is a health hazard.
Yeah.
Give me your husband's. Like, if your husband's going to cheat, send your husband my way. Send me your son's my way.
You won't catch anything.
Because it's going to be clean.
Again, this is both disgusting, cruel, and factually incorrect. She is a much higher risk than anyone else. Because again, let's say one person gets tested once a year, but they have 2 partners between each test. they are going to be much safer than someone who gets tested every 2 weeks but has 300 partners between each test. It's just stats. I also, again, don't like her use of words like clean when it comes to STI testing, because this is something I've been learning about in recent years and how that really stigmatizes STIs, you know? It's not that you're clean or dirty, as the opposite implies, but you can be free of STIs, you can have a test that is positive or negative, or, you know, let's try and talk about it like that. That said, I don't want to think that I'm like shaming STIs in general here, because it's not. STIs are a normal part of life. They really, really are. And if you get one, there's nothing to be ashamed about. Most of the time you can get treated, sort yourself out, that's fine. The important thing is, though, that you are safe and responsible. You get tested regularly, you use physical barrier contraception whenever you can, especially with new partners until you both got tested. They're the important things. I'm not going to judge her if she gets an STI from sexual contact, that's fine. What I am judging her for, though, is her lax attitude to physical barrier contraception, how she doesn't seem to care, and the fact that a consequence of that is she is putting hundreds of men at risk, and clearly their partners if they're cheating on their wives with her. She is putting so many people at risk, and she doesn't care. She's laughing about it, and she doesn't seem to realize the problem. She's saying that I'm safer, I'm cleaner than most. Well, no, you're not. That is dangerous misinformation. That's what I have the problem. Is that clear? I hope so. Anyway, moving on a little bit, and it turns out that Bonnie's disrespect for women isn't just aimed at strangers, but at her own mother too. Which is always fun, isn't it?
What does your mum think about the fact that are they together still?
Yeah.
Okay. Your dad going and fucking someone else. What's her opinion on your opinion of that?
So if my mum wasn't pleasing him, I said, what do you in the bills? He's working hard. If you're not doing the bare minimum, he's going to be going elsewhere. Like, and I've got friends that I can recommend.
At least a ball tickle.
Exactly.
At least, yeah.
Maybe a cheeky rim job.
Well.
But, so yeah, if that was the case, I'm like, look, what do you expect? It's like, I don't know why some people are so shocked when their partners cheat. I'm like, having sex is a big part of any relationship. And I think women too often go, oh, we don't have a, big sex drive anymore. But
because they've been together a long time.
Yeah, like they just include their partner in that. And it's like, I can guarantee you he's going down the pub saying the opposite.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, I reckon here she's probably just saying this to get some attention. She's probably just rage baiting with this little clip. Hopefully she doesn't mean it. But at the same time, she said it. And it's like, can you imagine if you were her mum having to hear your own daughter say this about you? She then goes on to say that she wants kids one day, and this critique I have of her is less black and white. I'll say that. There's a lot of nuances to it. But she says that she doesn't care if her future kids end up getting bullied at school because of the videos she's made in the past. Because she says, kids get bullied for stuff all the time, so it might as well be this. Now, on the one hand, it would be great if kids didn't bully other kids for this, but realistically, they're gonna, right? And I feel like as a parent, you kind of owe it to your kids a little bit to, I'm not going to say not put them in that situation, but at least consider their well-being and care about their well-being, you know? It feels selfish for her to be like, well, I don't care if they're bullied or not. It's going to happen anyway, so I might as well be the cause of it. That's what I think I have the problem with. Like, her just lack of care if they're bullied or not. Her just taking it as inevitable. Her just being like, whatever. It's gonna happen. I don't know. Anyway. She then talks about getting hate comments online, and she puts it down to, again, middle-aged women being jealous and prudish, rather than just, like, decent people being concerned that her mouth is a biohazard and that she's exploiting teenagers. Also, again, not middle-aged.
Do you get a lot of hate comments on your stuff?
Oh, loads.
Really? Does it affect you or not really?
No, because like loads of it is like not relevant. It's always middle-aged women that have either probably, they know their partner would like to cheat with me.
Yeah.
And that's not really my problem.
No, that's
it's
fair.
a them problem. It's a you problem.
That is a you problem.
That's a you problem.
Yeah, trust me, love. When I critique you, I'm not worried about anyone picking you over me. I'm concerned about the people that you're actively hurting and potentially spreading diseases to, and the people you're exploiting for money. And that's not a me problem, that is entirely a you problem. Be a decent person, care about others, think about other people's health for a change, actually start practicing safe sex, be with consenting adult, like proper adults your own age, who can think about these things through, not barely legal teenagers. Also pay them fairly, and I'll not have a problem. Like, if she was sleeping, and I'll say this again, if she was sleeping with single men her own age, paying them fairly for their labour, and practicing safe sex, then I wouldn't have anything to complain about. I wouldn't be here making this video. But the fact is, she is being dangerous and exploitative. And I think it needs calling out.
And yeah, the comments will just be like, on the way I look, or, which is funny because some of the people you can see their profile picture sometimes. I'm like, in the nice way possible, like, even if you cover yourself in bleach, you're still not going to look clean. So I'm not really insulted by you.
See what I mean about her seeming like a bully? Like, this is just unnecessary and cruel. She doesn't have to start, like, mocking people's appearances like this. I think, like, I know I haven't necessarily been, like, the nicest person in this video, but I like to think I'm only calling out her behavior. I think the most personal thing you can think that I said is that I don't think she's as good in bed as she thinks she is. But I think that's more to do with the fact that she lacks basic sexual knowledge. Like, and that's just purely based on her own words and her own stories, and the fact that, like, she doesn't seem very good. But, like, I don't think you need to resort to, like, insulting people's appearances just because you disagree with them. It's childish. And then again, there's a clip here that I'm really confused by, because she claims that she made $3 million from OnlyFans this year, but her company is registered as only, still a ridiculous amount of money, making like 600 and a bit thousand, which is quite the discrepancy. So it's all public information. So again, she's either massively exaggerating how much she's making on OnlyFans, or someone's fudging the numbers and potentially committing tax fraud. Who knows? Who's to say what it is? Not me. I don't know. And then she goes back to mocking 18-year-olds for not being good enough in bed again, and she says she just treats them as a living toy if they're not hot enough. She ends the podcast interview video thing by warning women that they have to do better in the bedroom or their partners will go elsewhere. So, how lovely is that? And that's where I'm going to end this video today. I'm honestly just like a little bit shocked at how hateful this woman is, how cruel she is towards other women, how she is so uncaring about the health of the people she's sleeping with, how she is so selfish and exploitative of teenagers. She is creepy as hell. She is predatory as hell, and I believe that behavior needs calling out, and hopefully that's what I've done today. Like, I don't think she should just be allowed to keep being creepy like this. I think people need to talk about it. And if you have teenage brothers, sons, nephews, cousins who are at these universities that she visits, mostly around the UK, mostly in Australia, then warn them to stay the hell away from her, and if they have gone near her, get an immediate STI test. Like, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end this video. It was a little bit of a different one today. I don't know. I believe Oates is also making a video on this topic, and she's the one who showed me this podcast clip and told me about it and everything. So please make sure you go check out Oates' channel as well and watch her video when she releases it, which hopefully will be around the same time as mine. We'll see. But yeah, Oates is great. She's also a lot snarkier than me and a lot funnier, and she is not afraid to say exactly what's on her mind, and I love and respect that about her. So yeah, go check out Oates as well. But for now, thank you for watching today. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. Again, just to clarify, I don't want to shame sex work in general. I don't want to shame someone who sleeps with a lot of people in general, but I am going to shame the exploitation of teenage boys, encouraging cheating, and the lax attitude to sexual health, and the fact she is putting so many men and their partners at risk of disease because she is being irresponsible. And like knowingly being irresponsible as well. Like, she'll laugh about her lack of condoms. So yeah, just to clarify, they're what I have the problem with. Not her job, not having a lot of sex, that's fine, but everything else. And also her cruelty. I have a massive problem with her cruelty and like the mocking people she slept with and stuff. Anyway, okay, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, please. Thank you for watching today, and yeah, I appreciate you a lot, and I'll see you again soon. I'm gonna go film my Ali Beth Stuckey video now. I've reviewed her second book. and that video is going to be long. It's like a 60-page script. I have a lot to say. There is so much misinformation in that book. It is worse than the first one. So I'm going to be filming that today as well, at least part of it. But yeah, keep an eye out for that soon. But yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate you a lot. If you want to keep up to date with me and all the stuff I do, you can go follow me on Instagram at Rachel Oates with a 0. I post photos of Kyra, gig photos I've been to, nature photos, stuff with my friends, all that fun stuff. Occasionally my stories, I post about like books I've been reading and all that fun stuff. So keep up to date with me over there. And also I often post when I have new videos out as well, so you can also keep up to date with that stuff. Right, okay, that's all the shameless self-promotion. I think subscribe if you're new here. That'd be great. Thank you. I'll see you again soon. Bye.